the pine trees, we hunt other than deer. The frost is white upon my skin, the air is cold, the air is thin. Run through the valley and over the hill, it's the unforgettable thrill of hunting Moomin, of hunting Moomin. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the 10th Orthoverse live stream. And I think I'm going to start off today by talking a bit about what a terrible day it's been computer programming wise. Namely, I managed to destroy the bootloader on my Linux machine, or rather I didn't, the Ubuntu installation program did. I had Ubuntu 22.04 running. Oh, I've got to move this mic over here, haven't I? I had Ubuntu 22.04 running on my machine, and I thought, well, I've got a spare drive in there, I'll put Ubuntu 20.04 on it. And although it claimed in the installer that it was going to install a bootloader into the new drive, it overwrote the one on the old drive. And everything on that drive was encrypted using something called LUKS and ZFS. And as a result, the boot fixer application that you can use on Linux to fix these things couldn't cope because they haven't updated it yet to deal with the new 22 version of encrypted file systems. So anyway, the short thing is that I had to spend about 4 hours working out how to hack my way into my encrypted system, given that I only had the passphrase and I didn't know where the secret key was on the drive, and that took quite a lot of work. And then I found a 9-year-old bug for this, which has a discussion from the developers repeatedly saying that this is not an issue because your data is not destroyed. So not the greatest way to handle bugs really, but I guess it's open source and they don't have a test department with the authority to chase them up and say, hey guys, this is not acceptable. Anyway, so that's my gripe out the way, and what I wanted to do today is talk a bit about the latest updates to the Orthoverse. So let us proceed there straight away. Okay. So I've been working for the last month or so on improving the saving of the world, and it's not the most interesting thing from the perspective of the user, because as a user you just expect these things in the background to work, like I did with the operating system that I managed to completely clobber by following the instructions written on the package. But it is important from the perspective on the game when you think about it in the long run, which is that up until now, the virtual world hasn't been able to dynamically update itself as people have revealed tokens. And that's meant that every now and again I've had to go in, check if people have revealed any more tokens, and then run a few things manually in order to get everything updated. And this works fine when people are only revealing a token once every well, at the moment about once a week, but it would be pretty terrible if for some reason the Orthoverse managed to step out of doomed mode and actually had a bit of a run on the tokens. So if 100 or 200 were revealed, that would be an absolute nightmare for me, and that's why this has kind of been sitting in the back of my mind, and I've been praying that the project isn't amazingly successful, because if it had become in the last month or two, I would have had a very long weekend of having to handle all the stuff. And yeah, so just a couple of days ago, I actually got it working. And there are a number of positive upshots about this. Firstly, if you flip your token or if you level it up, then that'll automatically get picked up even if I'm asleep. If you reveal a token, it gets a place on the map and then appears in the voxel world. The map stuff worked already. Richard had been working on that, and so of course he got his part working. I was stuck with the voxel world thing, which turned out to be a lot trickier than I thought. And I've learned an awful lot about data storage systems for virtual worlds. And believe me, they're not entirely simple. So that all works now, and as an added bonus, when I reboot the server, it should remember your saved land and actually load the particular save slot that you've used for it. So there's a chap out there, Ken, the owner of Pen Orbdell, who knows very well that every time I mess with the server and reboot it, he has to go and visit his land and reload the world that he has worked painstakingly on over the last couple of months. So part of this was for people like him to make sure that they know that their world is in the persistent state that is meant to be. So of course I've pointed out many times that the Orthoverse is currently in a pre-alpha stage. I wouldn't even call it a beta yet, but it's inching closer to beta. So for those of you who are not software engineers, an alpha is, I've just noticed my face disappears off the camera with that shot. Right, let's go back to game frame right, and you can see the top of my head. Yeah, so for those of you not working in the software industry, an alpha is where you have cobbled something together that pretty much almost works, but not all the functionality is there, and you haven't conducted thorough testing. And then a beta is generally when it's feature complete, so you have all the functionality that you're expecting for the next upcoming release. You've conducted some testing, but you'd like to get some real user feedback. And so then you have a beta release, and beta testers are people who don't work for the organization but use the software, and they want to help out, make sure that the quality is good. And then you finally have a release, and that's when you have a complete test run and you've gone through the beta phase, and you're hoping that the software will be of a reasonable quality. Now, of course, the thing about software is that it's like writing a book, in that it's never really complete. You just have to have a point where you draw a line under it and say, well, that's it, that's what's going off, that's what we're printing. Let's hope there aren't any grammatical errors or spelling mistakes in it, or that it turns out that I got the names of two characters mixed up in chapter 9 or stuff like that, which of course does happen all the time, more often than you think. And some people out there take great enjoyment in digging out errors in books and errors in software, and I have to admit I'm one of them. So anyway, let's go and dive in to the Orthoverse, and let's see, I will sign this. Is that the right account? Yes, it is. Right, so I am actually starting in Pen Orbdell, so Ken has not managed to make it here and load the land yet. Or he has, and it hasn't worked, and he hasn't bothered to message me. And of course, in true Orthoverse style, the world is completely dark. I always seem to end up here at night time for some reason. But I think the effect of these kind of glowing yellow tiles in the dark is, the futuristic worlds look quite good in nighttime, I think, anyway. Right, so I'm gonna zap back to the Orthohenge, and those of you who have well, actually, I can see that there are people following this, so let me just quickly hop across. Maybe some of you should say hello in the chat, and feel free to ask questions, by the way. I will keep looking across and checking what's going on, and then if you have some questions you want to ask, or some suggestions you want to make, or some criticism you want to offer, now's the opportunity to. Anyway, so here we have the Orthohenge, and the idea behind the henges is that you can use them to teleport. If you look at these, the 8 compass points, the color of the tile, which we can hardly see in the darkness here, is slightly different. It's a sort of greenish color, and when you walk through there, you teleport to a different location. And here we are. I'm now in the southern henge, and the idea behind this was that if we go to the map, the idea here was that the world's pretty big, and apparently my mouse wheel is pretty defective today, so I'll have to replace that. And so everybody starts off by appearing, oh gosh, it's like painful, I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Everybody starts off by appearing in this land here, the Orthohenge. And then that means, of course, that lands nearby are more likely to be wandered in by people. But it takes quite a while to walk. So by the time you are, say, trying to go to a land all the way over here, it could take you, well, I think I timed it, takes about 35-40 minutes to walk from one corner of the world to the other. And nobody's going to want to appear in the center of the world and then find that they have to spend half an hour before they reach their own land. So I made this henge, and the idea was that you can teleport to any of these other, what are now islands, but will eventually join up, and you can then, well, it gives you more lands that are close to the starting point. So if you sort of think of a land as a hop, then instead of only having 8 lands that are one hop away, now you've got a teleport, and you've got another, so what you've got 9 times 8 lands that are one hop. And then the next round, that's 2 hops and 3 and so on and so forth. But it's still quite a walk. And tempting though it is to have a world where you have prime estate and then less desirable estate at the edges, the downside there is that it means that most of the lands are not going to be near the thoroughfare, the sort of center of the world. And so what we have added is a new feature. And I'd really like daylight to come so that I could actually show you. Well, we've got a nice bright moon anyway. Yeah, so you hit T to talk, and there is a command, visit. And you can type the name of a land. You don't need to type the whole name as long as you've typed enough letters that it's unique. Then you'll go to the correct one. Otherwise, it picks the first one on the list. And if I hit enter now, there we go. And I'm in the center of Fangwenina. And I'm sure all of you out there who have lands and have spent time walking a long, long way to reach them are probably sighing with relief at seeing that. So, for example, let's try it again. We'll go to, oh, not that, visit Pencan. And there I am in the center of the castle at the center of Pencanlia. So, to make it a little bit more interesting, oh, has the stream hung? Oh, God, that would be annoying. I'm going to type a message in the chat. I've had a bad technology day today, so it wouldn't surprise me. Right, let's do some checking. I haven't heard anything from anyone. That should have really made me feel suspicious. Speedtest.net saying OBS Studio disconnecting, reconnecting. Yeah. Okay, so teleportation was being covered. I just guessed that the YouTube Studio preview is not working properly. So I've got people saying, you were doing fine. Well, that would just be typical for today. I was doing fine, but I managed to mess it up myself anyway. Yeah, anyway, so I got kicked off. Back to teleportation. I was going to show one extra feature of teleportation, and I have to say that this was Richard's idea. You go /visit and you can type random, and that will then take you to a random land. So I think that's kind of fun. Okay, right, so there you have it, a month's work. And what do we have? A teleportation feature, which to be honest took about 20 minutes, including all the testing, and the land saving stuff, which yeah, it just took a crazy amount of time. So I guess the question is what to talk about now. I think the thing here is to maybe look at some statistics for the Orthoverse. Have I got LastPass? No, it's not up. I don't really want to log into that while I'm streaming, do I? Hang on, let's have a go. Give me a moment. Yeah, I have a very long password, just in case you haven't guessed. No, they're not letting me in because they want me to verify an email. Okay, we can scrap that one. Yeah, so I wanted to show this June analytics stuff. Maybe I can find it without actually being logged in. Do we have any? Yeah, there we go. Right, so June Analytics is a company that is scraping the Ethereum blockchain on a second-by-second basis to build up a database that contains a complete record of all the stuff that's been going on in a way that it can be searched with SQL queries. And that means that you can write your own queries and then actually get some statistics out. It's really useful from, I guess, a marketing point of view. And you can see here, tokens revealed per week, that we were having a very reasonable run back in the early days. Massive peak over here, but that things have tailed off a bit. But as I said at the beginning of the video, I'm actually quite happy that we had this nice quiet period here. And to be honest, crypto winter is put up as an excuse by people why projects are running low, and I think that might be partially to blame for this. I think the novelty of NFTs and excitement about the metaverse is down, which I also happen to think is a good idea, rather a good thing to have happened, because it's getting rid of a lot of the scammers and it's getting rid of a lot of the vaporware products where they're just trying to jump on a bandwagon. It was metaverse a month ago. This month it's ChatGPT. Who knows what it'll be next month? I mean, honestly, the business world and entrepreneurship world surrounding the tech world is worse than fashion. You know, when you see the ridiculous outfits that people are wearing as they stalk up and down catwalks in Paris, and you think, well, that's just crazy. Well, believe me, we're doing the technical equivalent in the tech world, in the way that people just are trying to grab the next big thing. And it kind of does boil down to greed. It's this fear of missing out, that the next big thing that's going to be the internet or the World Wide Web is coming along, and that you're not going to be there in the early days. And that just, I don't think that's ever going to go away. I think that's a kind of core property of human beings as a group, that they don't want to miss out. And this is why we have bubbles and speculation, and this is why we have a lot of scams as well, because when people are in a mindset where they think that they have potentially a fantastic opportunity ahead of them and they just need to take a few risks, they kind of switch off the logical brain and the emotions kick in, and that's the point where you get scammed. And you know, it happens very easily. Human beings, you know, we're walking around in bodies, and we have hormones, and we have glands, and we you know, these are all the things that we evolved with first. The logical brain is kind of at the end of the queue when it comes to stuff. And to be honest, I could look back just to a couple of Saturday, for the week before last, when I was in the Delhi airport and feeling hungry, and I bought something from a stall there, and I actually knew as I was eating it that it was a mistake, that I should not be eating this stuff. It wasn't right, but I was hungry, so I ate it anyway. And surprise, surprise, 24 hours later I had a mild dose of gastroenteritis, and it took 3 days to recover from it. And that's a case of my stomach overruling my brain. And so this is human nature. We're not going to be able to change it, but what we can do is we can put up systems that protect us against it. And that's why we have things like consumer protection laws and regulatory bodies, provided they do their job correctly. And actually that allows me to talk about the next thing, which is the problem with regulation in the blockchain space. And That is that the regulatory bodies are initially set up in order to protect consumers from being scammed, because stock markets, shares, speculation, investment opportunities offer great opportunities for fraudsters. The problem is that as regulatory bodies get bigger and they become more influential and they are a significant part of the government, or maybe the civil service actually is probably a better description, it becomes about fiefdom building your kingdom, having influence. So they kind of lose track of what their real purpose is, because it becomes a political game. And I think we're seeing that in the United States at the moment with the way the SEC is functioning. They failed to do their job in the early days by first ignoring crypto and then not spending any time trying to actually provide guidance to companies that were moving into this space. And now they're starting to come down with heavy hammers on all sorts of companies. Many deserve it, some of them don't. But it's kind of tough to hold people accountable to something when they didn't know what rules they were playing by in the first place. Anyway, a little bit of a political aside there. Let's go back to the Orthoverse. So it's a nice sunny day now. Can't get enough of the visit command. Maybe people who are following this could suggest their own lands in the chat, and then I can go and visit them and give them some commentary on the lack of building that they've done. Right, anyway, so here's my world. I'm going to be building a little sort of arrival place, because when you teleport into a new land, you arrive bang in the middle of it. Each land is 6 by 6 chunks, and each chunk is 16 by 16 voxels. So you end up coming in, if you start off at the northwest of it, you'll be 48 voxels east and 48 voxels south. That's where you'll arrive. Of course, there's one way is to try and pace out all these blocks like I'm doing now. The other one is just to teleport and see where you land, and then just put some different blocks in place to mark out where you've arrived, and then you can build whatever you like. You could have a nice arrival hall decorated. Remember that this is where people arrive first. Maybe you want to be cruel. Maybe you want it to be a cage, so then people will have to hit H to teleport out or visit some other land, or maybe you can use it as the entrance into a labyrinth, and then you can set people a challenge. Can you visit this land? Are you able to get out? Can you solve the maze that I've made? And at some point, hopefully, I'll be adding things like NPCs. So we'll have, we can have creatures walking around. Maybe I'll be able to one day get the combat system that is built into Prismarine JS, because it's based on Minecraft, and then that would allow you to eventually build like Dungeons and Dragons style dungeons, but that is all still a way off. And to be honest, the next thing that I want to do is to go back and work on the avatars now that I got the saving stuff done. And the saving stuff done is actually getting that done is actually an example of something in software called technical debt. So when I first set everything up here, I just wanted it to work as quickly as possible. Don't know if you know the history behind this virtual world being built was really that Richard and I had launched an NFT token project, and the metaverse was just starting to become a phrase that was being bandied around a lot, and we thought, well, we've got to have a voxel world too, but being my ever principled self, I wanted to make sure that it did not require a download, that you could just do it in the browser. I wanted it to look as nice as I could without going completely nuts on the Unreal Engine side of things. And it turned out that this looked like it was the quickest way to do it. But of course I cobbled it all together. It's just one person really working on this. Richard helps out with the blockchain side of things, and occasionally gives me moral support on the voxel thing, but he hasn't really dug very deeply into the voxel side of things. And to be honest, I don't blame him, because it's a bit of a rabbit hole, and I'm not really sure it offers much in the way of career advancement or business opportunities, being a voxel programmer. Mainly because there's a lot of 20-something-year-old developers out there who are tinkering away with this kind of stuff just for fun. So whenever you have a human activity that lots of people do just for fun, it becomes proportionally harder to actually make a living off it. So anyway, having cobbled it together quickly, I then discovered that I'd coded myself into a corner as to how the world could be updated in a reasonable amount of time. And then I kept putting it off, because that's what you do when you have an unpleasant task. And eventually you get to the point where the guilt kicks in. You think, I cannot keep putting this off. I've either got to quit, which obviously I can't do for the Orthoverse given the amount of work I put into it, or you've got to fix it. And so that's what I did. And I was thinking of logging on to the Orthoverse.land server and actually having doing a bit of digging around to show you some of the files, but because I messed up my computer today, I have yet to go and recover my keys, which I have printed out, but they're long strings that need typing in, and I just haven't got around to doing it. So unfortunately I can't do that today. Anyway, so if nobody has any questions, I might actually just continue building this colonnade that I started working on. So I was reminded of Neville's Court in Trinity College, Cambridge. I think I talked about it in the last video. And I thought, well, you know, colonnades look nice. Maybe I should have one of those myself. And so that's this construction here. And it does demonstrate one of the problems we have with building in the Orthoverse. You can see it as a problem, or you can see it as a challenge, which is that you have to build your own scaffolding in order to be able to reach the places where you want to build. So when people are building in creative mode in Minecraft or in Roblox, usually they can just fly. And we could, I suppose, introduce flying in the Orthoverse, but I don't know. You sort of worry that, you know, if you make things too easy, then you lose some of the challenge in the actual activity. Whereas if there's a little bit of work required, but not too much, then maybe that works out better. Right, I have run out of... Brilliant. Having climbed all the way up this thing here, I have run out of the steps I need to continue placing that sort of crenellation at the top of the colonnade. So we save this world as it is and go and get some materials to continue the build. Right, so this is the technique, the one that took me 5 live streams to discover. Oops, I dug a hole there. And I should probably see if I can get some stairs from here. There's 1, 2, 3. Having mined a bunch of stairs, I can now step safely back and make sure you hold the shift key down when you load. There we go. All those bits come back, but I still have the steps. So okay, well, I could build that, but I think I'm going to be my usual easily distracted self and go to the very top of this huge tower that I built. So last time we went to the top of that and I tried to extend it upwards to see how high you could go and if the software can actually cope with people going beyond the 256 block height limit, and it turns out yes, the system does cope with that. You can build all the way up to the top of the sky, and then as you place blocks they just don't appear and you lose them from your inventory. Right, there we go at the very top. And oh, it's gone all dark again. How annoying. I wonder if I should cheat and make it light. No, we'll just take a leap into the dark. There we go. Oh, nearly got onto the roof. Richard and I were doing that last night, seeing who could jump the furthest. Well, given the lack of questions and the disastrous day ahead of me, I think I am probably going to wrap this one up and maybe come back next Saturday, maybe take a break, because I think we need to have some more we need some more stuff that can actually be seen, that I can demonstrate. And teleport, though very useful, is about a 3-minute activity to demonstrate. But just a reminder, anybody who's joined late, you hit T to talk, you type /visit. Oh, actually, I added a few other commands as well. You can do /where, and that will give you your position. So how many voxels you are north, south, east, and west, or rather up and down, and longitude and latitude. And I think I also added a teleport where you could put the position in, but that's only for moderators, because people go and make terrible mistakes with that. In fact, I'm going to go and make one now. Teleport. So if you're a moderator, you can actually put in a number here, and you say, I want to teleport 3044, 3000. Yeah. And I've ended up in Lemenia. Yeah, if you go too far, you end up way off the world and you get stuck and it crashes the server. So I can't make that one publicly available. But the idea of actually saying, well, you can teleport to a land, I think is a very sensible one. Okay, guys. Well, I'm not really feeling it today. It's just been one of those days. Unfortunately, I'm not a live streamer who's making his living off this. I have to say, when I started this, I kind of thought, well, you know, maybe it's going to be a lot of fun, and it is on a weekly basis. But if somebody told me I had to do this for an hour a day every day for the next 10 years, even if I knew I was going to make millions off it, I'm not sure I would want to do it, to be honest. It's not nearly as much fun as my kids seem to think it will be. But I think that's like the same with the music industry, right? You form a band because it's fun, and you record some tracks because it's fun, and then you get a music contract, and then suddenly you're having to tour, and you're playing the same songs over and over again to different crowds every night, and I believe that gets pretty tedious too. So I think, you know, you want a bit of variety in life. Okay, anyway, thank you for the viewers who turned up. Very much appreciate it. And I'm going to wrap it up at half an hour today. I'll see you all next Saturday, and hopefully I'll have some big news there if I manage to get the coding done that I hoped to get done today, but couldn't because I had to reinstall all the packages and software that I had on my previous install. I really have to work out how to get a collection of what I use on my computer so that I can just get it all done in one go. That's it for today, and see you next time. Bye bye.